So listen, you know how this goes. Question everything. You should. And remember, this is for entertainment purposes only. Let's get to it.
We kindly ask you to keep our daughter in your prayers. This is incredibly difficult for us to process. We believe 100% in the authorities' investigation. The conditions and the waves, the ocean, that makes to believe. We are believing 100% the authorities. That's why we came to that decision.
So the authorities told you that they believe she drowned?
Yeah. Heads up, the authorities have shown us how high the ocean waves were at the time of incident. And both sides of the authorities also clarified that the person of interest is not suspect from the beginning. It is with deep sadness and heavy and heavy heart that we are coming to the terms with the fact that our daughter has drowned. We kindly ask you to keep our...
Man, I commend him for being so strong. Just to be able to deliver that speech to everyone, to give everyone an update or closure or whatever you want to call it. Like, that's your kid. Your kid. If you don't have kids, then step away for a minute, because you don't really understand how much a person, you can really, really love a person. You don't understand till you have kids or you have a spouse that you really love, bro. And you realize what the extent you would go to for another person. You don't realize that until you have that person like that. Man, I commend him, bro, because I don't know if I could have did that. You know? The mom, my prayers and every heart goes out to her, bro. That's rough. And I was hoping it didn't come to this. I was hoping they find her, hoping they get some type of lead or good information. This sucks, bro. This is not what I wanted to hear about this case. And you know we've been following it heavy.
This spring break trip to the Dominican Republic went horribly wrong. It's been over a week since anyone has laid eyes on Sudiksha Konanki, who likely drowned in the Caribbean, but authorities haven't ruled out foul play. Here's everything we know so far and details on the last person to see her. On March 6th, around 4 p.m., University of Pittsburgh pre-med student Sudiksha Konanki, age 20, was reported missing. Her group of 5 female friends had flown to the DR for some fun in the sun. They stayed at the 5-star Riu Hotel and Resort in Punta Cana, where they became friendly with some guys. 12 hours before she was reported missing, surveillance video shows Konanki arm in arm with a man and 2 women behind them as they stroll to the beach in the wee hours.
At around 4:30 in the morning, showing 20-year-old Sudiksha Konanki with friends and a young man. Now, authorities say that after a walk to the resort's beach early that morning, the friends later returned Konanki and the young man.
And it looks like every time I see this video or this part of the video, I can't help but pay attention to the both of them, or it looks like to be both of them, but you can't really tell because they're leaning on each other, so you don't know who's stumbling. Except for that one video we saw of the dude at the bar and how he was stumbling over off to the side and everything like that. So you want to think it's him, but they're both stumbling, which is a horrible recipe headed towards water.
And staying behind.
Sudiksha stayed behind with Joshua Reby, age 22, a senior at Minnesota's St. Cloud State University. Reby is now a person of interest in the case, although his family says he wouldn't hurt a fly. He shared his side of the story with local authorities. The two went for a night swim. They talked and kissed while waist deep in the water when suddenly a big wave knocked both of them over. Reby says he played lifesaver and pulled her out, that it was difficult, and he ended up vomiting up seawater. That's when the pair allegedly parted ways. She went to retrieve her belongings, and he passed out on the beach until morning. Reby was a former pool lifeguard and a star 195-pound high school wrestler. In a resurfaced 2021 video, he talked about his involvement in sports and the Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
For school, I'm involved in football, wrestling, track, and baseball. And then I also do FCA. And outside of school, I just go to my church youth group. Last year I made it to state, so I'd like to repeat that again this year. Except this year I'd like to come back with a medal.
However, when grilled by local police, Reeby declined to answer 8 key questions, giving the same 14-word response each time. My lawyers advised me not to answer that question, and I followed their advice. Questions included if he knew she knew how to swim, and if he informed anyone, the hotel, authorities, or a friend, about what happened on the beach. Adding to the mystery, Konanki made 2 cryptic Venmo transactions just hours before she went missing. One had an emoji of a sailboat, and the other referred to Coco Bongo, a popular Punta Cana nightclub. Konanki's father flew to the DR and has filed a criminal report. The family, originally from India but now live in Virginia, suspects she was kidnapped. They claim that if she had truly drowned, her body would have washed ashore by now.
So that's kind of a recap of the whole thing leading up to where we are now with the first video of the mom and dad, and the dad saying that they're pretty much declaring her dead and thinking that she drowned, you know? And they're kind of pretty much relieving or saying that they don't believe that the guy had anything to do with it. They believe he's telling the truth. The authorities said when they first heard about it that he wasn't a suspect, or however they classified it, you know, and they went back to that original ruling.
This Sudiksha Konanki case is taking yet another turn. And if they don't find anything out soon enough, they're going to let that boy come back to the United States. So after all the investigations, them searching, them looking, them asking questions, they haven't found out anything yet about this girl. And of course, Joshua is just making up story after story. Honestly and truly, if he was here, they probably would have locked him up already, because he can't come up with the right things to say. He keeps making up different shit. First, he think he lost her in the water. Then he thought he was laying on the sand and lost her. Then he didn't know exactly where she was at. Then they had a final kiss type shit, like they was on the Titanic. Where is the girl at? Like everybody else, I'm sitting here trying to figure out how all this shit happened. Now, mind you, somebody said he could have buried her in the sand. I'm saying to myself, that shit don't even make a lot of sense, because how would he know to do that? It's not like he's a native. It's not like he knew, let me dig up sand and leave this girl in the sand. And then common sense would tell you, if she drowned and got swept away by water, she would have washed up on shore already. Where is the girl? You got people saying that.
Now, I was with him. The dude that's speaking, I agree. I was with him probably a few days back. The more I sit with it, the more I think about it, the more you gotta trust the authorities that they did their investigation. You know what I mean? And that ocean is just unpredictable. It's unpredictable, you know? So, hey, you talk to me tomorrow, something might come up and I feel a different way. But right now, as I feel right now, I think that alcohol played a major part in this situation and caused it to have her maybe washed out into the ocean or drug out into the ocean by those waves that they were saying that the waves were big. You know what I mean? Him really did pass out. He probably really did pass out. Wake up the next morning, gathered his thoughts, and probably didn't start remembering things. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Today I feel like I support the family's decision and everything that they said and everything the authorities are saying right now, because without a body, what else do you have to go on?
Of course, they was on a resort. I've been to resorts in Dominican Republic before. So I know that people are not supposed to come on those resorts. But let's be honest, when money is involved, people can go where they want to go. So I say that to say, okay, what if the boy didn't have anything to do with it, but he knows what's going on? Because mysteriously, this girl is just missing. You can't find anything. You got surveillance tapes showing everybody together. You got surveillance tapes showing her by herself with her friend. You got surveillance tapes showing him walking back to the hotel. You got surveillance tapes showing everything, but you don't have surveillance on that beach. You don't have no knowledge of what's going on. And then my biggest question, her friends. What are her friends saying? Because we just totally X'd all of them out. You go away with your friend and you let her go off and be with a man
That part. I'm not a female, but I know how females, I know how they interact and how they are when they go out of town. And most of them, somebody's sticking around. They're not letting you go off with somebody you just met. Not a good friend. What you mean? You taking her where? No. Especially when things have been different when you go out of town. People have been coming up missing. This hasn't just started happening. So a lot of people are more conscious or of things like that happening. They're more aware of that happening. So they're less likely to let you just go off with somebody you just met these days. He is right on that. He is right on that. The fact that her friends just let her go off, and it wasn't like they were, or from what we saw from the surveillance tapes, it wasn't like they were off with two other dudes. It was just her and him. Fellas, we don't like that when ladies do that because we always feel like they're getting in the way of us trying to get with the girl. But it happens a lot. So he's spot on with that one. I thought about that too.
she doesn't know. Every woman that I know that I spoke to about this case said the same exact thing. I would never let my girlfriend leave with a man that we don't know. Leave on a beach and both of them are inebriated? That don't make no sense. And then the next day, go on a whole excursion that she was supposed to be on. She wasn't there and nobody was worried? Oh yeah? It's crazy.
Early Sunday morning, the man who may have been the last person with Sudiksha Konanki was back on the beach in Punta Cana. Only this time, 22-year-old Joshua Reeby of Iowa was with Dominican Republic investigators who are still searching for the University of Pittsburgh junior more than 11 days after she disappeared. NBC News capturing this video of investigators in the area. Hours before walking the beach with authorities, Reeby exclusively told NBC News, "I'm just trying to help them out," adding the ocean is a dangerous place. In a statement first reported by NBC News, his attorneys allege his passport has been confiscated. He is permanently escorted by the police anywhere he goes, and he is not free to leave. The U.S. State Department and Dominican authorities have not confirmed if Reeby is officially being kept in the country. On March 6th, Reeby and Konanki were seen on this hotel surveillance video with a group of people heading towards the beach in the early morning. Reeby, who is not considered a suspect, has been interviewed as a witness by Dominican authorities. NBC News obtained a transcript, which we translated from Spanish. Reeby recalling he met Konanki shortly before she vanished. He says their group had been drinking shots of pink tequila. Then he says they went to the beach with friends, the two of them winding up in waist-deep water, talking and kissing a little, before a big wave swept us out to sea. Reeby says they almost drowned, although he eventually got Konanki to shore. While they were still in knee-deep water, he says, "I asked if she was okay. I didn't hear her answer because I started vomiting all the seawater I'd swallowed. After vomiting, I looked around and didn't see anyone. I thought she'd grabbed her things and left. I lay down on a beach chair and fell asleep." Reeby telling investigators he was surprised Konanki never returned to her room. Early Sunday morning, the man who may have been...
That's scary, man. This is just an odd situation, bro. That is just... Because the scene is just playing out. They're standing in the middle of the water, knee-deep water, kissing the wave, knock him over, knock him back. He grab her, pull her out. Ask her, is she okay? Don't hear nothing. He starts throwing up, lays down, wakes up, and she's gone. Gone. Immediately you think, oh, how long I've been here? You get up off the chair, start heading back to your room, probably pass out again. You don't know, get back inside, pass out again, wake up. Dang, I wonder, did I get her information? Blah, blah, blah. That's another good question. Did he have her number? Did they exchange numbers? Did he attempt to call her or see if she was okay? You know what I mean? I feel like they're going to do a documentary on this.
The family of the missing University of Pittsburgh student, Sudiksha Konanki, now say that they believe that she has drowned off the coast of the Dominican Republic. The last known person to see her, Joshua Reeby, was in court yesterday. He's fighting against what his attorneys call illegal detention.
As you know, Joshua Ribby was not charged with a crime here, was not even considered a suspect here, and that's why a Dominican judge ruled that he should be able to freely move about this country and pave the way for his return to the United States, but left it unclear exactly when that might happen.
More than 4 hours after 22-year-old Joshua Ribby entered a Dominican Republic court to fight against what he called an unlawful police detainment,
Todos y cada uno de sus derechos fundamentales deben ser respetados.
the judge decided the Iowa native's petition should be upheld, giving Ribby permission to move freely in the Dominican Republic.
Arisa expresses its deep gratitude to the Dominican judiciary and all institutions involved in the Joshua Stephen Ribby case.
Ribby is thought to be the last person to see 20-year-old Sudiksha Konanki before she disappeared from the Rio Republica Resort's beach in the early hours of March 6th. Ribby told police he and Konanki were swept into the sea when a large wave hit them. He believed Konanki got out of the ocean, but is not 100% certain. Since Konanki went missing, Ribby says he has been interviewed by authorities several times. He was confined to the resort and had to be escorted by police to leave his room. His passport was also confiscated by police. In Tuesday's hearing, the judge did not rule if Ribby can get his passport back, leaving his possible return to the States unclear.
Are you able to take him back home?
Both Ribby and his dad had no comment after the verdict.
Mr. Ribby, what can you tell us about the decision? In court yesterday, Ribby mentioned that the Konankis believed him, that they hugged him, and that they thanked him for trying to save their daughter.
The family of the missing university.
What happens to Ribby after this, y'all? After this is all said and done, if it continues down the direction and path it's going now, what happens to him? Is his life ever the same? I don't think so. I don't think his life could ever be the same. Where does he go from here? What does he try to do? How does he try to get back in the good graces? Because unfortunately, when they put that stain on you, you get that stain of possibly have done something or allegedly could have done something. It's hard to get that stain removed. Now, the family embracing him, saying, you know, we don't believe he did it, hugging him and all of that helps. But does it make it hard for him to go back to the way things were? It's my question now. Because not only him, his family too. His family, his immediate family. Whatever he goes through in life, they'll be right there going through it with him.
Coming on a little earlier than normal tonight for a moment 9 months in the making. Look at the live pictures at this hour. NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams are making their long-awaited return to Earth from the International Space Station. Of course, this would end a remarkable space odyssey. Their SpaceX capsule just becoming visible. You see it there in the live picture. They are speeding through the Earth's atmosphere, heading for a splashdown just minutes from now, about 5:57 Eastern Time, obviously about 6 minutes or so from now, just off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida. The parachutes we are about to see deploying here about 4 minutes before splashdown. That should happen around 5:53 Eastern Time, about 2.5 minutes or so from now. We should see that at any moment. You can watch it as it comes through the cloud cover. Of course, as you know, we've been reporting on this story. Astronauts Wilmore and Williams arriving on the Boeing Starliner spacecraft for what was supposed to be an 8-day mission. That was back in June. We reported on the technical issues. The Starliner kept them from returning home, NASA sending it back to Earth empty, keeping the astronauts on the space station until a relief crew arrived this past weekend. Now, their SpaceX Dragon capsule docking at the space station, astronauts Wilmore and Williams, along with 2 other astronauts, then boarding a second SpaceX capsule, undocking from the station, beginning their trip home early today in the early morning hours. Of course, back here on Earth, their families have been waiting months for this moment. Sonny Williams' family telling our team that everyone is looking forward to celebrating their return. We do have coverage on the ground. Faith Abube is at Cape Canaveral in Florida. And Faith, as we look at these pictures, hard to imagine both of these families really waiting for their loved ones to finally come home after what turned out to be nearly a year in space.
Yeah, David, and it's not just the families that are excited, it's also the NASA team. NASA officials we've spoken to over the last several days tell us that in this moment, they're on pins and needles as they are watching the spacecraft come closer and closer to the Florida coast. They've done this multiple times, but each splashdown is unique. Each one presents its own opportunity, and so they're watching this closely, but no one more excited about this splashdown that they're waiting for here than the family members who have had to sacrifice so much over the last 9 months. Remember, as you just mentioned here, Sonny and Butch went for that 8-day mission on that Boeing Starliner on that crewed flight, that first test flight there with the crew. They were supposed to come in just a few days. As Navy captains, retired Navy captains, they are aware that things change. They've done this long enough to know that there are changes that come with this. However, no one would have imagined that this would have taken 9 months for them to come back home. Their families anxiously waiting, listening to them, trying to get word on what will happen. And of course, we're watching all of this happen in real time.
Faith Abube, thank you. Of course, we've seen.
Man, it's like they coming home from jail. It's like they just did a 9-month stretch. They coming home fresh out. That's how they feeling. Let me out of here. Nah, give me my clothes, give me my shoelaces, give me all my stuff back that y'all took from me before I went in here. Let me out. Don't ask me to come to work. Yeah. I'm gonna need some time off. Probably about 9 months to be exact. With pay. And my body could be forever changed. That's what I want to hear about. Because you know they're going to run tests on them. That's what I want to hear.
We've seen the parachutes deployed there moments ago as Faith was reporting on the families waiting for their return. Look at these remarkable pictures as these 2 astronauts who were in space for nearly a year. The parachutes now deployed, obviously working for that final descent to slow down the capsule for this splashdown just off the coast of Florida. Let's listen in to NASA for a moment. Let's get a feel for this.
They continue to ensure that the Dragon spacecraft slows down even further. As we mentioned, Freedom will be traveling 16 miles per hour when it splashes down off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida, here at 2:57 p.m. Pacific time this afternoon. And there we go.
We have visual on 4 healthy mains.
There you have it, 4 parachutes now deployed. We knew there would be a total of 4. And as we heard from the NASA scientists there who are narrating this video, 16 miles per hour when that capsule.
Not to be that guy, but why can't we have this type of a system on an airplane to prevent it from crashing down into the ground or in the ocean and everybody on there not being alive, not making it? Why can't we do that? How hard is that? I know I'm not the first person to ask that question, but I'm going to continuously ask that question.
Splashes down just off the coast of Florida. We're joined by retired NASA astronaut and ABC News contributor Katie Coleman, also watching this. Katie, you know this all too well. You were on the International Space Station yourself, but it's still incredible to see.
Now awaiting visuals of Splashdown.
You know, it's actually hard to breathe.
When you were coming back yourself, and describe for me what this moment is like for these 2 astronauts. We know there are 2 others accompanying them in their return to space, but what this moment feels like and what it feels like when they actually splash down into the water.
Well, I think I hate to say it, but I think we've seen the scariest part, at least it's the part where I wasn't breathing, which is wanting to see those 2 drogue chutes that start the sequence.
You're looking at 800
and then
a live view of Crew 9
seeing all 4.
just minutes away from splashing down off the.
And do you remember what this moment was like, Katie, yourself, in the return to Earth, and what this must be like for them?
It's a wild ride up until just now, and now you're just waiting for the water and knowing that it's probably going to be a pretty good, solid landing there, but you've got instruments to tell you when it's coming. And again, you just want everything to be working right.
We're looking at the 4 astronauts inside the capsule right now, Katie. And can you imagine the 2 astronauts who went up there for 8 days and ended up being up there for nearly a year, what that must have been like?
I have to tell you that there's a bunch of us that are envious.
I had a feeling you would say that they had extra time to spend up in space. For those of you who know what it's like, you served twice on the International Space Station. But again, we're watching the...
Wasn't expecting that answer. I wasn't. She said she was envious for a 9-month stay, accidental 9-month stay at that. You're envious? I know it's bad on Earth. I know it's bad. We look at it every single day, but goodness, I still don't know. I don't know if I could say I would be envious. Like, think about this, right? What if you're up there and then something happens to the planet and then boom, planet explodes and you're there. Now y'all are the only 2 lives left that once lived on Earth. See, that's the way my brain thinks.
These final moments before splashdown, we're about a minute away. And take me back to this moment. What does it feel like as you hit the water when you're inside that capsule?
I came down in the Soyuz, so it wasn't quite the same as the water, a little harder. And at the same time, what happens is they're actually going to submerge the whole capsule under the water. It looks like a pretty calm sea there. That's always a good sign. But I remember just looking and watching the numbers count down, and you're just waiting and waiting, and it's the longest wait ever, I'll tell you.
Former NASA astronaut Katie Coleman watching these live pictures with us coming in from NASA. What you're looking at here is we're on the air a little earlier than normal tonight. These 2 astronauts, along with 2 others accompanying them, they are just moments away from splashdown, traveling at about 16 miles per hour at this point. They have 4 parachutes to ensure a safe landing as they come back down to the water. If we just get rid of the topic bar for just a moment so we can actually see the...
And splashdown. Crew 9 back on Earth.
Back on Earth. And there the applause. Back on Earth.
I've got chills just looking at it.
That the family of Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams have been waiting for.
Only when they touch back down do I be like, dang, I wish I could do something like that. Only when they successfully touch back down. All the while they're doing other stuff, I'm not envious at all. It's only when they touch back down and have completed everything that I'm like, wow, that would be dope to do.
For 9 months now, their 2 loved ones went up to the International Space Station to serve for 8 days or so. They said a number of times from the International Space Station that they did not mind being up there longer than they had planned, but that the most welcome home, they just said, from NASA headquarters, welcome home to those 4 astronauts as we keep our eyes trained on the live pictures here.
An amazing, what a ride.
They said the most difficult part, as I was saying, of ending up there for more than a year was being away from their family. Butch Wilmore missed most of his younger daughter's senior year of high school. He has an older daughter as well who's in college, so a reunion between Dad and his 2 girls here when they can get out of the capsule and out of the water here.
You can see why the capsule's designed the way it is, too. It's floating in the water like a buoy so it could stay above, you know what I mean? Like, they've thought of everything down to the, like, most minute detail.
You can see on your
we did anticipate it would be quite some time before we actually see them now. We're going to see the capsule here floating in the water. It's about a half an hour to 45 minutes before you actually expect to see the astronauts themselves. We'll have that for you on World News Tonight coming up a short time from now. Sonny Williams had been using the internet on board the International Space Station to talk with her mother, who is a senior, as she checked in on her and her health and her well-being, letting her know that she'd be home soon. She said she looked forward to reuniting with her mom, her husband Michael, and her 2 Labradors, Gunner and Bailey. We're going to be awfully excited when Mom comes through that door.
Copy, you're in section 2 for the environmental assessment.
So welcome back to Earth. Crew 9, you can see a recovery vessel there in the distance, which will certainly take the 4 astronauts, again, Butch Wilmore, Sonny Williams, and 2 other astronauts who accompanied them back. And this was on a SpaceX capsule. As you know, they went up on a Boeing Starliner in the first place almost a year ago. And the initial plan was to come home on a Boeing vessel as well. That did not work out. Eventually, it was a SpaceX capsule that would bring them back. Let's listen to what they're saying.
After approximately 17 hours of a return journey from space.
The SpaceX recovery ship and team have been waiting for Dragon's splashdown, and they will now make their way to the splashdown location.